Torryburn. The night the sea refused to sleep. The wind howled like it was in pain, slamming itself against the cliffs, tearing through the trees like a beast unchained. The sky hung low and angry. Clouds bruised purple and black, smothering the moon in their fists. The tide came in too fast that night, hard and hot, like it was trying to wash something off the land. It was a night the dogs refused to bark. Lanterns flickered out without cause. Even the rats stayed hidden. Lilias Adie lived at the edge of it all, where the marsh met the rock, where the road forgot your name. Her cartis leaned sideways, like it was tired of standing. Smoke from her hearth always carried an odd smell, sharp, herbal, tinged with something coppery. She wasn't a midwife. She wasn't a healer. She just knew things. Knew which mushrooms would heal, which would bring fevered dreams. Knew when someone would die. She would whisper it like a warning to herself as they passed her door. "Be village," Gaz whispered. She had a third eye beneath her hair. Boys dared each other to throw stones at her door. Mothers made signs of the cross when her shadow touched their child. One child swore she saw a man-shaped shadow watching from Lilias's window. But Lilias lived alone. No one could explain what started it first. Sarah woke up screaming in the middle of the night, nails ripped to the quick, babbling about a tall man who crouched on her chest and whispered, "Give her to me." Her skin was feverish, marked by handprints, charred, blackened. Her father found her at dawn, standing barefoot at the fireplace. The coals were cold. Her feet were blistered. Her eyes stared into something far away. Her lips mouthed a name no one recognized. Then came young Thomas. No, older than 10, twisted of spine, but bright of mind. His mother found him in the corner of their one-room home, whispering, no, chanting, in a voice not his own. Latin, not the kind taught in church. Harsher, older. The syllables curled in the air like smoke, refusing to die. His eyes rolled back until only whites showed. Black blood trickled from his nose. When the minister placed a crucifix in his hand, the metal turned hot. It burned into the boy's palm. The minister tried to read a passage over him. Thomas laughed. Not a boy's laugh, but the sound of iron nails rattling in a box. He looked at the priest and said, "She showed me the way between the walls." And then came the birds. They rained from the sky. Dozens of black crows, wings broken, beaks bloody, crashing into windows and doors, as if thrown by an invisible hand. One smashed through the chapel's stained glass. Mid-sermon, its shattered wing severed Father McKinnon's cheek. No one went to church that Sunday. By the following week, 3 cows stillborn, milk soured in the pail. Bread refused to rise. Bees cried all night, unstopped breathing for seconds at a time before gasping back awake. When the rumors began, they didn't whisper them. They shouted them, one name on every tongue. Lilias Adie. They broke down her door on a Tuesday morning. The village men dragged her into the square, mud still caked on her hands, wild hair tangled like seaweed. She didn't fight them, didn't scream, just looked at each one of them with eyes that made their stomachs twist. One man swore she whispered his dead wife's name. In the cell, they chained her to the wall. No food. She didn't beg. On the second night, they brought in Father McKinnon to question her. When he demanded she confess, she simply said, "He visits you, too, doesn't he? The one with hollow eye. He never returned." So they tortured her. Hot irons, thumbscrews, sleep deprivation. B carved crosses into her skin and watched them fester until she began to talk. They wrote it all down. She said the devil came to her as a shadow through the floorboards, that his eyes glowed like coals, that he whispered from the cracks in her chimney, that he promised her warmth in winter, full bellies when others starved. She said she gave herself to him, not out of evil, but hunger. When she was a child, cold and alone, it wasn't God who answered her. It was something else. Something that had always been there, waiting. She spoke of gatherings, not in the forest, but in the church. After dark, where villagers danced naked on the altar, where infants' cries were muffled in the walls, where wine tasted like blood. She spoke of a book bound in skin, of a name scratched beneath the altar. Some of those names were never read aloud. The town wanted fire, but Lilias never made it to the pyre. She died in her cell. Some say she swallowed her tongue. Others that she smiled and simply stopped breathing. Bite. The jailer found claw marks on the stone behind her. Deep, fresh, made after her last breath. Purr. Her body was cold, but the stone beneath her, warm. Her heart had been beating far too long after death. They didn't bury her in the churchyard. They buried her where the tide comes in. A place where fishermen never cast. They nailed her into a wooden box, covered her in salt, buried her beneath a massive stone slab to keep her in. But evil, you see, doesn't die when the heart stops. 100 years later, grave robbers dug her up, cracked open her coffin. Her bones were still pink, her skull intact. They took it. Passed from surgeon to collector to museum, photographed, displayed, touched. Then they started dying. Fires, sleepwalking into rivers, murmurs in locked rooms. One man scratched Lilias's name into the wall, then gouged out his own eyes. Eventually, her skull was burned, but some say even that fire screamed. Today, Lilias's body is still lost. Her skull vanished, but the slab remains, cracked, sea-slick, split, as if something beneath it once tried to rise. Some say she's still watching, and when the wind screams at your window, and the fire dies for no reason, and your child speaks a name in their sleep that you've never said aloud, it's not just a story, because they burned her once, and again, and still her spirit lives on.